our work collaborating with local partners. La Casa Hogar, the University of Washington, and Leadership Tomorrow in Seattle. We worked alongside teachers in a group of 30 to 40 members that split into self-selected subcommittees to draft sections of our equity policy. Students were at the center of creating and presenting the policy with and to diverse stakeholder groups, from teachers to the board of directors.
A core group of students continue to work in the 2021 through 2022 school year, beginning our collaboration with the new equity program manager, Marcello Sgambelluri. Over the summer, the group engaged in an unpaid internship to further research on equity best practices, building out a more comprehensive student voice group system, and directing a town hall for prospective board members. The Superintendent Advisory Council was expanded to be more reciprocal and action-oriented. We had 2 tracks, one for fellows that wanted to be engaged deeply in the work and one for advisors who just wanted to provide feedback. We focused our work on action projects such as technology services, mental health, and nutritional services.
Here, you can see the demographics for our 2021-22 Student Voice Council. We want to make clear that we strove to ensure that our Student Voice Council matched the demographics of our student body. And here you can see that we ended up with a very inclusive group of students, and we continue to focus on making sure that all voices are heard in our student voice work.
This is our 3rd year that students in the district have been pursuing equity in education. We sustained our work in numerous student voice structures established in 2021 and expanded our direct involvement in mental health and student voice policy development. While Mr. Sgambelluri worked to advance student voice circles at numerous primary and secondary schools and managed a wide portfolio of equity-focused initiatives across the district, Dr. Green empowered us to prioritize drafting a comprehensive set of measures that would set the benchmarks for evaluating the district's performance in implementing our board's new equity policy, and we are proud to have nearly finished them at this point.
Before diving into our recommended strategies to uplift students in your districts, we want to provide some more details on our program structures. We have partnered with the College Spark to make some of the student work paid. This isn't necessary, but we do push you all as district leaders to consider how you are compensating students for work they put in, building career skills and mindsets, and making the program more accessible for all students who may need financial support for transportation, food, or families. Professional development and learning has continued to be a core part of the program, building skills and competencies for college, career, and civic life. Our team has expanded with student leaders from our schools and student voice structures. The Superintendent Advisory Council was rebranded as the Student Voice Council and continued to focus on action projects and systemic change.
From the last 3 years of work we built on, we have learned some key lessons along the way. Today, we want to break these down into a few different categories and think about applying them and then frame these ideas into helpful tools for you guys as leaders.
We want to emphasize 3 approaches that you should take and can take in your districts starting this fall to change the way your districts work with students and to unleash greater equity in schools. First, encourage. Create the space for student initiative and involvement using a range of engagement and retention practices. Then empower. Focus on policy reform to energize and uplift inclusive groups of problem solver students. And finally, equip. Scaffold your staff support systems, invest in your student leaders, and trust them to lead their own projects alongside your teams.
The big challenge of student voice is that we only have a few years in the system. And to be the change that we want to be, we understand that our time is limited and each cohort has to build a strong foundation for our future work. This has made us focus and understand how our work on creating sustainable institutions we call student voice structures, councils, groups, or practices that will long outlive our own short time in Yakima. By prioritizing these channels of change, we can build and sustain effective practices, knowledge, and student leaders who can make a positive impact in the district for educational equity. Each year's cohort can take over and improve on the previous cohort's work, creating continuity and memory that facilitates good work.
It is important to allow for multiple on-ramps for students to provide their voice. We have multiple levels of fellowship and diverse varieties of meetings and providing feedback. And we've also worked to provide compensation for students' time and commitments. The spectrum of involvement goes from simply providing feedback online surveys to independently writing policy from scratch. At all levels, we focus on ensuring that student voice creates impact and that they see what happens with the voice they provide. It's important that this is a tiered system, allows for students for flexibility, move between levels, and collaborate for commitment over time, allowing our work to be truly impact-driven.
It's essential that the student voice you hear represent your student population and that all voices are heard. We have used multiple techniques to make this happen. We have used online forums, teacher nominations, presentations, different groups, hallway flyers, and much more. We have also had flexible application timelines throughout the year instead of just the fall. We have lowered every barrier to entry that we can, making the application process a simple Google form or even a Google Meet conversation. We constantly assess and innovate on these processes to ensure that we can get as many students as possible and as diverse a set of students as we can for our group.
Very early on, students realized that policies are the most powerful drivers of change at a systems level. Through the student written equity policy, the Yakima School District has allowed for student-driven change within a school environment. And just recently, the student voice policy draft has allowed for high-level opportunity in creating systemic educational improvement that will impact not only students of this generation, but also for the next. By focusing on policy, we create open and concrete expectations around how the district serves the community and designs change. Students learn by mastering the long, open process of systems change. You also create a foundation for equitable change by aligning shared values, shaping core principles, and establishing key practices. This empowers students to lead and gain deep experiences researching, crafting, and presenting a cohesive product to guide future change, building momentum for additional work led by the same students. This creates an integrated cycle of change that disrupts traditional systems and creates new visibility into the change-making process.
Once you've mobilized students in these spaces you've created, consider channeling that new capacity into reviewing where district policy deals with student voice and agency in the educational system. You can use this review process to bring in other district policies, review student voice resources and initiatives, and think about potential policy development to address any gaps. As lead fellows, we are happy to work with your students and share our growing library of student voice resources and documents from around the country.
Our programming also focused deeply on building the skills of students and equipping them to be more powerful, change-making citizens that can affect the systems that affect them. In 2021, this work mostly centered around the equity policy and an unpaid summer internship. In 2022 and beyond, it has evolved to be more robustly funded work, more tightly integrated initiatives that develop student advocacy skills and spreading impact to mental health initiatives, a student voice policy, and the building of a more long-term student voice structures. Students have grown the skill sets they are gaining with experience in engaging with community groups, directly driving board actions, developing policy from scratch, and building coalitions to drive change.
To truly train and equip students, you have to show up. From a student's perspective, getting face time with you creates trust and establishes a foundation for mentorship and relational investment. Honesty demonstrates your willingness to partner with students in the work. Extending this trust to public engagement opportunities further creates a real-world training ground for student growth and skills building. Invite them to spaces of power like executive councils or board meetings, and provide feedback before and after presentations. Don't come in this work with priority or expectation. Start with a blank slate and just listen. Talk about experiences, don't talk about your solutions. Once students surface issues, work with them to co-design solutions and then provide support for them to be the main speakers and actors in driving that change forward.
The two key issues we are currently looking to address are first, having a better way of transferring knowledge between student cohorts as students transition in and out of the program or district. We're thinking through how to lengthen student groups so they go beyond 1 year in developing modules to train new participants. Secondly, we ultimately have to grapple with various levels of student engagement. The lingering effects of the pandemic and the challenge of school schedules has made it difficult to regularly draw on student time and investment without either compromising the self-driven nature of the work or academic achievement. This is a real barrier to equitable student voice, and we believe that getting more districts around Central Washington to try different tools and tactics and share best practices is our best path forward to getting the most out of our students and systems.
A large part of our work, and one we are most excited to see have an impact on our system, is the student voice policy we have been drafting. This policy would establish expectations on the district to engage students in decision-making and hold all levels of the district accountable for engaging with students in designing systems. First, we'll share a bit more about its origins, development, and status in our community.
This started with the courage of the board and the integrated communication between staff and students, inspiring our team to explore creating a board policy that would define, defend, and expand student voice. In January of 2022, the lead fellow started its research into student voice leadership across the country and sampled student voice council perspectives in May. By July, the team within the revamped summer internship had started crafting a policy draft, which it refined in August and shared in September with the superintendent. In November, we supported our policy draft with an official definition of student voice unanimously approved by the board. Since January, we've presented to over 1,100 stakeholders in person and virtually, gathering over 500 student perspectives, as well as responses from nearly 100 staff from around the district. Here you can see just some of the phenomenal support we've gotten from the community on our current draft.
And let us know if the audio is ever cutting out or if someone's mic isn't working. If you just put that in the chat or let us know.
Okay, over the course of the development process, we spent hours on end discussing and debating various policy structures and practices, language before pitching our full draft to senior YC leaders. Moving from there to the student voice in the district, we released Google Forms paired with video and in-person presentations and booths to surface constructive feedback after sharing our full and translated drafts. We created one-pagers and supporting materials too to help translate the complexities of policy and the simplicities of desire for change.
Here's our policy structure to introduce it prior and just, briefly. We've constructed three main sections, which we call the three key Ps. Our preamble talks about what we mean by student voice, our purpose, our goals, and our comprehensive definition. Our principles dig into our philosophy around student voice and the core values and belief that will guide our work, from partnerships with stakeholders to our focus on educational equity. And our practices are sorted into 5 baskets: board of directors, district, school, students, and finally teaching and learning, with 22 total policy statements that will encourage, empower, and equip stronger, sustainable student voice.
So we want to leave you with this. Student voice and educational equity cannot be tackled independently. You need a unified approach to secure the best results for students in our schools. To get there, create student voice structures and review your policy frameworks to make sure you are empowering students. By encouraging, empowering, and equipping students, you can unleash your students' potential and advance systemic equity.
In February of 2022, our board of directors tasked us with representing student voice on our modified calendar. We had very limited amount of time, so we split up the work between 4 students at that time. And we began to collect feedback and thoughts through Instagram on different options of the balanced calendar at the time. After we collected our feedback, we collectively created a slide deck with data, feedback, and findings. On presentation day, we split up our tasks into different sections, starting off with the institutional feedback, which came from ASBs and student voice council groups. The next section included random sampling data, where we presented our pie charts that we put together after collecting data. Then we followed that with qualitative feedback, and finally, we gave our perspectives.
Let's take a look at the areas of concerns. The management of the engagement process needs to be improved so that our community members that are also affected by a balanced calendar have the opportunity to stay in the loop of what is happening in their districts. Families are in the dark, and a calendar change will radically change their routines. Students have been ignored while it's only been in rare opportunities like these that our voice have been heard, and we don't even know what kind of engagement the district has had with our community, because just like families, we as students are also left in the dark. Now think about it this way. A balanced calendar will impact summer work, economic development, student activities, family time, and much more. This speaks to a lack of transparency and even more worrying, a lack of inclusivity, with there being no bridge between the district and parents, students, and community members that are affiliated with students. When creating a balanced calendar, don't forget who you're creating it for: your staff, your teachers, your students, your family, and most of all, your community.
Back in February, when we asked students to give feedback on our district's balanced calendar that our board was doing, many students highlighted summer jobs, activities in the summer, family trips, time to explore new things, and much more. Above are some of the quotes that you may look at that were directly presented to the board by us that we surveyed to highlight the areas of concern about the balanced calendar that was happening at the time. We want to take away that it's very important to consider your community when creating a balanced calendar and to take into consideration what your stakeholders have to say about said calendar. We noticed that based on the quotes above, there are many students in our community that preferred a calendar that allows summertime to be more open for various activities and opportunities.
In the next 4 slides, we will explore our takeaways through lessons that we will share with you all.
Lesson number 1, engage students early. What could have been better about our process was that we were engaged about student voice late into the process of adopting a modified calendar. You should engage your students and communities as a first step in the process instead of letting students select from options. Give them the opportunity to build what their ideal calendar looks like.
Lesson number 2, engage students often. Instead of confronting them once, come back to them often. Keeping that communication open allows for more feedback to come through, and it also allows for new feedback from students that you may not have heard of. In our process, we were only able to talk to students once, and that is one of our biggest regrets. If we were to do it again, we want to communicate with our students many times and during many stages of our calendar adoption processes.
Lesson number 3, engage students with many methods. Don't limit your community feedback to one medium. Instead of sending snail mail to your young students, use a variety of outreach methods to reach as many and as diverse group of students as possible. Utilize tools such as social media, emails, physical flyers, and many more. If possible, even have a physical staff member at schools collecting students' opinions. In our process, due to a tight time constraint, we were only able to use social media, but if we did it again, we'd use many available resources to gather our students' perspectives.
Lesson number 4, engage students with purpose. Don't just think of your student voice as a checkbox. The mission is using it as a tool. If you really try to comprehensively engage your community, you'll receive good, thoughtful ideas that will help to inform your decisions. Most of all, always be passionate about what you do.
Lesson 5, engage the whole community. We've been focusing on students, but you also need to consider that by affecting student schedules, you affect families and your wider community alike. Instead of using national data from other districts, create data from your own community. While we were tempted to show you the data that we collected in Yakima, it's necessary to understand the people that you will be affecting in this process.
All right, so now that we have gone through our presentation and you guys have seen our experiences and takeaways, we'd love to answer any questions right now or hear any of your guys' comments.
Did you find any real positives from students about a modified calendar?
Sorry, one second. They're just repositioning, and then they will answer. Can you ask that one more time, Jeanette?
Did you find any really strong positives from students about a modified calendar?
Um, sorry. Some of the positives that we found that students liked about shortening the summers were that they would have more time to study and like have those breaks spread out throughout the year. And so a lot of students would prefer to have like a long Thanksgiving break, like a week, instead of just having a 3-day weekend. So having it scattered out means extending breaks, which students liked that idea a lot.
Thank you.
Would you be willing to describe where you inserted your breaks if you did adjust your calendar?
Yes, I'll speak to that. They inserted a January and a November, I want to say, intersession at Yakima schools. So they insert 2 intersessions into the year and then shorten the summer by a week or 2. And overall, the big outcome of the general calendar setup in Yakima was there was a teacher rebargaining of the contract last year, and they bargained an end and a beginning to the school calendar into the union contract. So they no longer bargain the calendar every year, but they have those 2 fence posts. And so that forces the summer to be that long at least. And so what the district was able to do as far as modifying the calendar was inserting those 2 intersessions, but there's not much more they can do, and they can't go into the summer anymore as of that contract.
Thank you.
Is your high schools on semesters or trimesters?
Semesters.
Semesters. Did students think it might be helpful to have a break at the semester for credit retrieval or catch up?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of students do like that idea of having at the semester, and also our intersessions, which, like Marcello said, we had 2 added, and those are really opportunities for credit retrieval. So school is out, but the school is like available. If you're failing a class or you need to make up a class, you can come to school. So the doors are open and you can retrieve your credit.
If you were speaking to students in another district, what would you say about modifying the calendar?
We would show them the pros and cons to both sides, to showing them what it would be like to shorten their summer, what it would be like to keep their summer the way it is. So we would definitely not just push an agenda onto them, but instead give them all the information so that they would know what they would decide, and they would be able to form their own opinion of it.
Did you reach out to the elementary schools or the middle schools at all, or did your research mostly center on the high schools?
I think they mostly centered around just the high schools.
Yeah, it's because like we mentioned, like we were given like a really short amount of time to collect student feedback before like presenting to our board. And so due to that, I mean, we were only able to get like so many perspectives because we were only, really using social media. So I believe it was mostly high school students.
Oh, thank you.
I think, as you see from the presentation, the work around student voice policy and the equity policy and some of the mental health work they've done is much more authentic and deep, and their fingerprints are much more on that. And then those last 4 slides of kind of the learnings of the balanced calendar, where a lot of the negatives of, I think the balanced calendar work was a more traditional engagement of student voice. And then our district has adapted it much more in integrating students more deeply, which you saw earlier in the presentation. So I think from the balanced calendar implementation, we mostly see a lot of how our new reimagining of how to engage students is much deeper, and this shows kind of the cons of that more traditional downloading of information from students rather than engaging them shoulder to shoulder to build solutions together.
Any other questions?
We still have a few minutes before we join back into the larger group at 4:50. Is there anything else you'd like to share about what your work has done or what you'd like to do in the future with Student Voice?
Yeah, I would say that, I mean, through this and the work you've just seen, like our district, we think has been really good at pushing for a deeper, more authentic student voice. And I think we would just really like to see that around, like Washington, the state and the nation, and creating more of a culture of student voice that is actively and authentically pushed into.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess we're just adding on to that, that we would want to see the same work that we're doing with students and having them engaged at a sit at the table with the adults and the staff and administration at different districts and the higher levels, that students can also like partake in those meetings and are able to integrate their own opinions so that they could make like a long-lasting change in their districts as well.
Are you doing any other calendar work, even though the calendar is a little bit restricted by union contracts now? Are you involved at all in looking at the calendar for the next year?
As of right now, no, we haven't looked into the calendar for next year, but we have looked into the one this year, and that was affected from the change that we did last year and the work we did.
Do we have any questions or wonderings from our other guests, other districts? Marcello, now that you're at ESD 105, will you be supporting other districts in this Student Voice project?
Yes, we're we actually just got an additional College Spark grant to spread it regionally. So we're going to start working with regional districts on engaging students in this more authentic format of engaging them as co-partners and co-designers in creating policy change and structural change, as opposed to the more traditional feedback and surveys and such. So, you know, if you think of a traditional ASB at the high schools of really the spirit and the school community and assemblies, we're really reimagining that and saying, how are you engaging student leaders around the actual structural design and system design of your schools and districts? So yes, we are now working on expanding that to the region, and that grant starts next year. And the students do have to run, but I can stay around if you need me to for the main session. I'm a part of the next meeting too, but I'll at least have them run ahead. Is that good, Jeanette?
Oh, absolutely. Whatever you need to do. We just appreciate you taking the time to being with us this evening. And thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yep, thank you all. And Jeanette has my so feel free to reach out if you want more information. We have a lot of the documents and structures and policy drafts and such that we've created that we're happy to share.
Marcello, could you share some of those with me in your slide deck from today in an email?
Yeah, for sure.
I'll post it in the participants access folder.
Yep, definitely will do.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a great day. Bye.
Okay, other participants, questions, concerns? Do any of you have student members on your school board or student representatives at this time? Oh, all right. Has it been successful?
Yeah, it's been in 9 Mile. We've had them on the board for I don't know how many years, as long as I can remember, and I've been here for 22 years. So
Are they part of the discussions of your modified calendar or balanced calendar yet, or have you gotten that far?
we are not that far, not even close.
How about West Valley?
There's one here tonight, as a matter of fact.
Oh, yay. All right.
Yeah, we don't even think of him as a student rep.
Just somebody sitting back there, huh?
No, he's very active.
Oh, great.
But no, we haven't otherwise gotten to the point where we're talking to students about, because we as a district have no idea what we would even do at this point.
Is Todd there?
Yes, I'm here.
Have you used students in your journey? Because this is what your third year at looking at balanced calendar, isn't it?
We have not. I'm about to take some of this on a little differently, but I mean, I'm working. I've got plans. I'm going out to my community beginning in January because I'm trying to get this pulled off by next year. I've already got my union to support it, so I'll be working with some students, some leadership students between now and January to kind of create some conversation around this that'll help arm me when I go to our community beginning in January with some of this work. So I'll let you know how that goes by springtime.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're closing in 30 seconds. Thank you so much for joining us.